Hi, welcome to the last episode in the first season of The Making of Madrid. This is episode number 32. And would you believe it? I'd been doing this for over a year. Halfway through, I turned it into a video cast as well as a podcast. And this was quite a steep learning curve, not helped by the fact that I suddenly got commissioned to go off to Japan to write the Kyoto and Kansai chapters for the new Lonely Planet Japan guide, and ended up feeling absolutely burnt out because I had to work around the clock to get content ready before that trip. And yeah, it was just so much to do. I mean, I survived, but barely. I'm feeling pretty tired now. And I've just heard that, well, I'm delighted to announce that I've been appointed chief writer for Lonely Planet's new Madrid guides that will be written starting from the beginning of next year. And I thought a little bit about this and I thought, well, what better time to take a little bit of a break? So rather than run myself down and produce rather rushed, possibly sloppy content, I thought that I would gradually, over the course of time, do interviews, produce content about barrios, that's neighborhoods, which seem to be quite popular with you guys. But please write in and tell me what you'd like to see in the next season, because I won't be not doing any work on it at all. I'll be doing a lot of work behind the scenes. So it will be ready, hopefully, to launch around springtime, possibly later. I can't make any guarantees yet. In the meantime, like I said, you've got 32 episodes to go back and listen to. And if you haven't already visited it yet, this all started with my blog, The Making of Madrid, that I've been doing for over 7 years. And that's full of content that I'm going to also keep updated. So you could go and visit themakingofmadrid.com and subscribe to my newsletter, getting a free copy of Madrid Beyond the Guidebook, along with your subscription. That's a guide to all the places that I'm not able to include in the Lonely Planet guide because we have very strict boundaries. But these are places that I absolutely love in Madrid, and that's something that I give out absolutely free. And speaking of subscribing, in order to listen to the new series, don't forget to subscribe. Now, that'll depend on what you're using to listen or watch this podcast. So you could subscribe on Apple Podcasts, which I think is the majority of people. You could subscribe on Spotify. That's where you'll get the video. And you also get video content on my YouTube channel. All, of course, the same name, The Making of Madrid. And as ever, I will keep trying to not have any advertising whatsoever on my website. And I don't get any advertising money for doing this podcast. I know probably your provider might put adverts on it, but that's beyond my control. I don't get any money for that. So if you'd like to support this venture, you can do so by buying a copy of my book, which is called Quiet Madrid. Now, that's a guide to the tranquil spaces and hidden places in the city that I absolutely love. So if you, like me, are a bit of an ambivert and need space to unwind and disconnect, this is the book for you. It's also got lovely walks, lots of photography that I did myself, and I'm really proud of it. You could also buy one of my tours that are available on VoiceMap. I've got 3 at the moment, one on medieval Madrid, one on Barrio de las Letras, which is Madrid's literary district, and another on Retiro Park. And I'm hoping that I'll bring out a fourth one, on Malasaña. So that's it from me for now. I'll try to put the Christmas episode back at the top of the feed. That unfortunately doesn't have any video at all, but it's a nice little one that still stands true to this day. And I hope you enjoy this last episode in the season. Hello. Madrid suffers from one of the world's worst heat island effects, and this makes our increasingly hot summers increasingly difficult to bear. Now, the obvious answer is to plant trees, but rather than do that in the city centre, our local government has actually been scrapping plans to plant trees and has been removing trees from places like Plaza de Santa Ana or the park of Arguanzuela by the river. So why are they doing this? Well, to answer this question, I'm going to talk today to activist AmyJo Doherty, who is a musician, and she's been really involved in the movement No a la Tala to save the trees in Madrid. Hello, AmyJo.
Hi.
How are you today?
I'm great, thank you. The sun's shining and it's a lovely day in Madrid.
Thank you so much for coming on the podcast.
Oh, well, it's a pleasure to be here. Thanks for inviting me. And hello, everyone that's listening.
Yeah. So before we get stuck into the thorny topic of the trees, I should introduce you. And I know AmyJo because I saw her leaping around Retiro Park at a friend's daughter's birthday party. And so you're a musician, is that right?
I am, yeah. Mm-hmm. I use that word.
So tell me about that.
Well, it took me a long time to use that word because I'm not a trained musician. I never had classes. I was an infants teacher for a long time, but I've always played the guitar and I've always written songs. And I ended up forming my first band, which was called the Ezra Beats. And a mum that was looking for, I was running a group called Bags of Fun, which was all about, it was a mums and toddlers group. But it was a bit of a concept that wasn't quite fitting for Madrid at that time. And she said, what we need here, Jackie Daly, she said, we need music that mums can come and sing nursery rhymes in English and the sing-alongs that you get in the UK. And there was nothing like that here. So I used to get so nervous. I used to rehearse and now you see me, I'm leaping around. And in fact, I've just come from Retiro. I've still got my weekly music class and I do concerts all over Madrid. And at the same time that I was playing for kids, I started playing for adults as well around open mics in Madrid. And this was all about, 18 years ago now.
But people can hire you as an entertainer, right?
Yeah. I do kids' birthday parties. Well, and also I do for older kids too. I've just done a wedding in August. So yeah, I've got something for all ages.
How can people find you? Do you have an Instagram or a website? Or?
I do. I have if it's for the kids stuff, which I do normally up to 5 or 6 years old, it's called Shake, Rattle, Roll Madrid. And you can find me. I've got a website and I'm on Instagram. And then for my own stuff, also covers and my own songs. I'm either Pig Lady 72 on Instagram, or I've got, if you just look up AmyJo Doherty, because I've got so many different profiles. I've got my band AmyJo and the Spangles, but yeah, put my name in and you'll find me.
All right. Well, we'll put some links in the description.
Oh, so, brilliant. Thank you.
People can get you. And you must have got into music maybe a little bit because your brother's a very famous musician, right?
Yeah, well, I think as a musician myself, that can kind of put you off at first from getting into the main circles. But I mean, we were brought up with listening to a mix of rock and roll and Motown. My mum's really into Motown and she loves Barry White and Marvin Gaye. So we had all that soulful stuff on the one side, and then my dad was really into the Kinks and Steely Dan and obviously the Rolling Stones, and they both loved the Beatles. So although they didn't play, we always had music in the house. We were sent to piano lessons. Yeah, and Peter, since he started playing the guitar at 16, he never put it down, actually. He just wanted to be a rock and roll star. Yeah. And he is, so.
Okay. Let's move on to the subject of today, which has been a subject that's been rumbling on quite painfully for a while. And that is, I suppose, should we say no a la tala?
No a la tala, yeah. Where's my hanky?
And I first heard this phrase no a la tala at a protest in Arguanzuela, which is by the river, where they were going to build a they are building a metro station. And I learned that tala means logging. And they're protesting the cutting down of trees. So can you explain a little bit about the context of that protest?
Yeah, well, they've got this new line that, you know, a lot of us are saying it's basically to get the tourists in quicker, get them direct to the centre from the airport. And Arganzuela was where I think most of the damage was done, and down by the river. Basically, it's just a bit mind-boggling because, you know, that area, Delicias, you've got so many metro stations. You've got Atocha, which is also train, and Cercanías, which are the middle distance trains. You've got Delicias itself. You've got Palos de la Frontera. Embajadores is really close by. There's so many buses that go through there. It's like, do you really need... We all know, if we live in Madrid, that the metro system is really good, you know, and you've got the Cercanías too. So, you know, it brings the question to mind, why do we need another metro line? It's certainly not for the people that are living here, I don't think, because...
Or even there was the phrase metro sí, pero no así, yes to the metro, but not like this, because what had happened was there were plans to put the metro in an area that wouldn't require cutting down trees. And then they decided, I think that, you know, the logistics of it were difficult with the main road running through, so they moved it into a park. So therefore they would have to cut down trees.
Yeah. I think there were, at the time, there was lots of plans, and the plans were shared, the so-called plans were shared by Ayuso's government, and there was a lot of options presented by people that were neighbours, or, you know, interested in saving the trees and keeping a greener Madrid. Because another thing that you'll hear them shouting is that if there's options, then it's illegal. And actually, a group of neighbours took this to Brussels. They went to Brussels. A lot of the manifestations, they were collecting money, because this is all basically neighbours and people that live in Madrid doing this out of their own pocket.
Hi, just a little note here to say that AmyJo refers to manifestations, which is a false friend in a way. It shows what happens to a lot of us who've been out here for a long time and start using Spanish words as English ones. She means protests, because manifestaciones, which is maybe a new word to some of you, means protest in English. And also, when we talk a lot about locals, we tend to talk about vecinos, which is neighbours. So just in case you were thrown by that, I thought I'd put this little explainer in.
So they sent a delegation to Brussels to say, look, this is what they're saying. They are the possibilities, but we've had a look as well. They presented other ideas, and Brussels actually said, well, if there are alternatives, then it's illegal. But by the time they got back from Brussels, apparently, they'd already started drilling and digging and talando. You know, they did manage to save one park right by Delicias, El Jardín, I think it's called Jardín de Palestina, which is, you know, kind of beautiful. They saved that tiny park, but yeah, parks have just been, you know, demolished. There was the talk that they're going to re-put the trees back, but we all know that that's a load of rubbish. And there's such stress caused to these trees, you know, that it's not going to be the same.
Yes, that's an important issue. They talk a lot about replanting, and I think that has been debunked, because a lot of these trees, when they're replanted, don't thrive and die, or they put in, you know, they say for every tree cut, they'll plant another tree, but generally
in their personal gardens, probably out in Majadahonda.
Or in these massive areas outside of town, and I've heard they're not very well cared for and they don't thrive. So,
no.
Yeah, again, it's very difficult.
Because these barrios, I mean, I live right in the centre in Lavapiés, and, you know, the trees are past their best, perhaps. They're doing the best they can. But in Arganzuela and Delicias, You know, you had big, beautiful old trees. Some of them were 60 years old, 70. You know, a lot of these neighbors that you'll see are pensioners, and they were kids when these trees were planted, or the trees were already there. It's so much part of a neighborhood, you know, and people forget that Madrid is so hot. It's one of the hottest cities in Europe. And I mean, there was another area that was and is a big problem is Plaza Santa Ana. And one of the last demonstrations there, they had some scientists that came and spoke about, you know, the difference in degrees could be up to 3 degrees. And 3 degrees when you've already got 42 degrees in the summer is a lot. You're talking about massive differences. You know, and apart from the shade and apart from the oxygen and apart from the birds, where do the birds go? The birds, you know, it's so hot here during the summer, and it's just, they just make it worse.
Yes, it compounds the heat island effect, which is a big problem.
And of course, what they do is they replace it all by concrete. And we all know, if we've spent an August in Madrid, the feeling at night is that it's even hotter because it's just like the concrete sucks up the heat and seems to spew it out at night. It's unbearable. And the trees, you know, help alleviate that somewhat. But
yeah, so there were plans to put in trees when they renovated Sol, and they decided not to plant them. And now what we've got is this kind of hostile architecture that's all concrete, supposedly benches.
Benches, you know, that are too hot to sit on. It's like they don't want people hanging around. You know, they want the people in the shops buying overpriced cold water. It's just all encouraging people to go and spend, and I don't know. It's just stinks of capitalism and not at all thinking about people that actually live here all year round. Just, you know, just tourists, people that are passing through and spending money. And
yeah, so we have to address, you know, what the arguments are for doing these kind of projects. The first one I think we already discussed was the metro, and then in the case of Santa Ana, they had to do work on the underground car park that had some damp that was coming through, and they said it was necessary to. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think it's all very political, which obviously everything is really when you get down to the nuts and bolts. But I heard it was to extend a car park. And again, in Plaza Santa Ana, I mean, I love going to these.
Oh, yes. They're also going to make it larger.
Yeah. While we're down there, you know, a car park in the middle of the city that apparently is going to be closed to traffic. And now we've got all these metros. So why are we making the car parks bigger? You know, apparently most of the car parks are owned by a family that are very, very right wing, Franco's family. And they're all in cahoots together, filling each other's pockets, giving each other's contracts while they're in power. And construction, car parks, underground bus stations. That's another one. You know, the Matadero is the next on the list.
Yeah, let's talk about for a second, but I should name Grupo Ortiz, which is the group that I see all the time that seem to be the ones who are always being charged. Are they doing you mentioned Tirso de Molina before we started recording.
Yeah. Oh, well, that's interesting. I don't actually know. But I imagine.
Okay.
Yeah.
I've seen them in Plaza de la Luna.
Right.
But let's get to Matadero, because that's the latest one. Yeah. If you don't know, Matadero is a old slaughterhouse that's been changed into a arts centre. And what are they planning to do now then?
Well, again, they want to build a massive intercambiador buses, basically a bus station.
An exchange
like
of buses.
They've got at Moncloa, and they do have kind of one there at the Glorieta of Lavapiés, of Legazpi, sorry, because lots of buses stop there, and it's, you know, important on the route. But basically what they plan to do, I don't know if you've been to the Matadero, but there's a lovely area right by the big water tank, which is so lovely in the summer because it's so hot down there. And it's mostly concrete now. But there's this lovely tiny little corner where there's some steps. There's a massive old tree, which I think is over 100 years old, someone told me. And out the back, there's almost like a little orchard. They're going to do away with all those trees. The water tank they're going to save. And there's a bit of wall that surrounds the matadero, which is part of the patrimonium. And they're not allowed to touch it. But, the trees are the first to go. It's like, in a, like, I don't want to keep repeating myself, but in a time where we should be so much more connected with nature, we're just bulldozing over all of it. And, I'd rather see the tank go than the trees, to be honest.
Yeah. It's incredibly sad. The other new one that's been in the news is the Formula One. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
I don't know too much about this because every time there's been demonstrations, I've been out of Madrid, but I know that the plan, Ayuso's plan, is to get Madrid on the circuit because obviously there's so much money involved, and it would be great if they are bringing this money into Madrid to put it into public health, to put it into schools, to put it into rebuilding parks. But where's this money going to go? Back into construction, probably.
Yeah. Maybe I can speak a little bit to that because I went to the protest. It's up in the north around Barajas. They're building a big circuit. They've done it before in Valencia. And Valencia ended up with a massive public debt from it. It didn't bring the jobs and money that they hoped. And they're actually thinking that it's going to be breaking lots of local new noise ordinances. And over summer, they got rid of a whole olive orchard that was terribly old and just removed it in the middle of the night.
Oh, no. It's awful. Yeah.
So I was pretty incensed about that.
Yeah.
And there was a big event to promote, the countdown to this Formula One, which I believe is going to start next year. And they unveiled a countdown clock outside Seoul. And I went to the protest the next day and the countdown clock had broken. So
good. Well, I'd take that as a great sign that there's not going to be any Formula One.
Yes.
It's the way they do it as well. It's so unscrupulous. Like, I don't know if you saw on the news the other day that someone, in Plaza Dos de Mayo and outside a kid's school, I don't know which barrio it was, but they'd painted a Palestinian flag on the floor in solidarity with, what's happening in Palestine, the genocide. And the ayuntamiento, the local council, were out straight away, cleaned it all off. The streets had never been so clean. But when there's pileups of rubbish, you can't get them to come and help. It's incredible. Or they go undercover at night and destroy a whole olive grove. It's twisted priorities.
Well, I got in contact with you because I think you've been active in the campaign against the tala or the removal of trees. One of the things you did was you made a video.
I did. I wrote a little song. We didn't talk. I could play the song if you like. There's a video.
Have you got your guitar?
I have.
I'll link to the video.
Yeah. Put a link to the video. It was because I don't know. I'm the sort of musician that writes songs as they're sent to me. And it's normally about things that are going on. So, I mean, the main word is no a la tala. And then Violetta, who's a woman who's really, you'll see her at all the demonstrations, all the manifestations, especially the against the tala and the health system and the Palestine manifestations as well. And she was like, oh my God, well, we've got to record it. So I did a very quick recording. And a friend of hers who's a nurse and also they're just really generous people. And she's like, well, let's record it with drones. And we got some people from the demonstrations and we made a little video in Retiro, which was beautiful to have a proper camera. And and I've been to some demonstrations and sang it. And sometimes it's just a way of expressing yourself. And I'm always broke, but I've got a great friend who recorded it in his studio for nothing. And, it's I sometimes feel as an artist, it's probably the same as you as a journalist. We've got this gift and it's well, in my opinion, it's a responsibility to use it to help causes,
And what can people do then if they feel strongly about this?
I think the big thing to do is get involved in the demonstrations because, as we can see what's going on around the world, they like to make people think that you can't do anything about it. But, there's always a choice. Like I was saying before, that most of the laws is if there's an alternative, then it's illegal just to do it. But people are very uninformed. When Plaza Santa Ana happened, I remember loads of my friends saying, what's going on? People just don't know. And the algorithm's very careful, very clever. And if you're not following all these accounts, like you probably are and I probably are, we get the daily notifications. But it's really important to go to these manifestations. I mean, you said the Formula One, there were so few people. And it's a shame because, I mean, everyone's very busy and everyone's very, wrapped up in their own world. But these are really important things. And it's not just, people, tree huggers or what. We're talking about your kids' future. I don't personally have children, but we're talking about your kids' future and what they're doing here. They're going to do everywhere else because I don't know. There's not a word to rhyme it in Spanish, but I love shouting it. Silence is violence, and not saying anything is almost like saying you're agreeing with it. And I would say if we can't vote here, then get out and talk about it. Or if you're on Instagram or Facebook, follow these groups, like the posts, share it with your friends. If you're not able to go to the demonstrations, share it with people that can be. I think now there's a massive, massive wave of people want to get involved. I think especially I know we're not talking about the genocide, but I think what is happening in not only Palestine, but in the Sudan and in the Congo is really opening people's eyes.
Well, yeah. So you can, if you're looking on Instagram, I think we should say that there's No a la Tala, which you should look at the hashtag. But the people behind that, I think, are Ecologistas en Acción, which is ecologists in action.
Yeah.
Any other groups to mention?
Well, this woman, Violeta, has El Barrio No Se Tala. There's all the ones about the Sanidad Pública. But if you go into the hashtags, like you say, Vecinos contra la Tala, SOS Madrid is a very good one because there's all things there about the gentrification and the problem that we're having in the centre with tourist apartments that are driving out. If you follow a hashtag, they'll lead you to
and I would say that probably a lot of people who are listening to this one and maybe living in Madrid and want to get involved, not to be afraid to go to these kind of events because I found people pretty welcoming and pleased that they get the support.
Definitely. Yeah, I agree with that. And because when I was a bit younger, I would always have to go with people. But now I'm just like, even sometimes I just go in for 20 minutes just to stand there and try and be a part of it. Because, like I said before, we're all busy. It's like, it's 7:00 on a Wednesday night. But sometimes if you can just pass through, but it's really interesting because there are quite often a lot of people on their own and there's always people giving a talk before. There's a lot of people that are just on their own and don't speak Spanish too. But you know how it is when you go to these things. You recognize people after a few times, or people will see you standing on your own and give you a thing to hold. It creates community and that's one of the good things about it as well. And quite often they're handing out things that you can go back and study. But I would say, especially if you feel like, I live in Madrid, but I don't speak Spanish. Well, there's a great way to go and practice. And, get involved in a city that you're living in because it's not all just tapas and sangria.
And in fact, I think one of the things you're trying to save is this idealized thing about Spain that's disappearing because the plazas, especially in Plaza Santa Ana, for example, people were talking about how they ought to be areas for people to come and gather. And I think
going to France, I see that this has been protected. French people tend to go out on the street and sit in squares and communicate. And they do in my area where I live, which is less central, so there's nothing to be commodified about it. But the people who are living in the center are losing the sense of community because their squares are becoming uninhabitable.
Yeah. And that's a very interesting point. I mean, the big main squares now, how many neighbors live in Plaza Mayor? How many neighbors live in Plaza Sol? Apparently at the demonstration, Plaza Santa Ana, some of the neighbors told me, well, there's only so few of us left because they've all been driven out, and like you say, if they now haven't even got that sense of community where they go and walk their dog and they say hello to the neighbors, it's all restaurants, bars, and there's not even trees you can stand under to get shade. It's almost like it's a planned thing to drive out the neighbors. Seems like like part of the plan,
Yeah. Which brings me to a recommendation to listen to my don't, whatever you do, use Airbnb when you come and stay in Madrid.
No, please don't. Please don't. There's a new one called Fairbnb, which I don't know if covers Madrid. And don't use booking.com. I mean, there are other ways around it. And I think, I've always used them. And now this summer, I found it not as difficult as I thought. There are ways around it. And it just makes us a little bit more inventive. And, but please don't be part of the Airbnb thing. I live in a ground floor flat, and now literally all the ground floor places here are either, there is still a hairdresser and a theatre and 2 bars, but it's all Airbnb, and they're illegal. Yeah. We know now that most of them are illegal, but they're making a day more than what most of us can afford a week,
Do you feel like we've covered most of the important topics about the trees? Of course, we can go on forever and ever, but anything you'd like to add?
Yeah, no, well, I just tell people to reiterate, to get involved, because people power is very powerful, but we need numbers. And since Almeida, aka has been in power, he's killed over 80,000 trees in Madrid, which is a tremendous number. So it's important.
Oh, and one bugbear for me is when my piece came out in The Guardian about the trees, I got told many times, Madrid won this award about being City of Trees. And actually I looked into that, and it won the award by default because we have wonderful parks like Retiro and Casa del Campo, but it doesn't actually mean that recent policy is supporting trees. And it means that there are certain areas in the centre that have, a lot of trees, but then we're still being denuded of trees, if that's a word, in important areas, in the city centre that become way too hot for people.
Yeah. By the way, your piece was fantastic. Somebody Violetta sent me that. She's like, it's in The Guardian about Noa Latala. So yeah, Madrid thanks you for
and
that.
I interviewed Lola for that, and I saw her in your Noa Latala video.
Oh, really?
Dolores Lola.
Oh, yeah.
So they're a lovely bunch, all the people campaigning for this. But we probably should wrap things up here. It sounds like you've been living in Madrid for quite a while, by the way. I didn't ask you how many years has it been?
Yeah, I mean, I came for 6 months about 21 years ago.
Oh, okay. So you know the city really, really well. And I always ask people to recommend a place in the city that they love. So where's your place?
I think for me, it depends on the time or the day, but I love Retiro. I've just been there this morning. And I love some of the fantastic little corners. Do you know the secret garden in La Latina? I've forgotten what it's called. It's a tiny wall.
Oh, at the bottom of Plaza de la Paja. Yes.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
That's a really magical space.
Jardín de Príncipe de Anglona, it is.
Oh, very good. Very good. It's a marvelous city. And some of the lovely tavernas. I love the Bodega Águila, which sadly doesn't do live music anymore, but And there's just so many barriers. I mean, I normally get bored very easily living in a place, but you know yourself, you can walk around the streets in Madrid and always discover new places. I love it. It's so friendly, and it's a shame to see it getting, destroyed for the neighbours, really.
Yeah. Well, I mean, hopefully if we fight hard enough, the trees will come back, because it's what we need.
We have to
And to wrap things up, we have to stay positive, sorry. To wrap things up, what's your favourite Spanish word?
Oh, I mean, there's so many. I love the jamón, obviously. But I'd have to say I love the word cojonudo or cojonuda, which means fantastic.
Yes, we haven't had that one yet, but it's good.
There we go.
Yeah. Absolutely. Okay. Well, cojonuda. Thanks very much for coming on the podcast, Amy.
Oh, thanks for having me on, and have a great day. Bye, everybody.
Okay.
No a la tala.
No a la tala.